Hi, what's going on, guys? Know it's been a while. It is I'm a Doodle Bob, and today we're gonna talk about if you could roll for all seven of your perks whenever you were to hit, a level requirement, level 5, level 10, all the way up to level 50. What would you go with, and why? I'm gonna be talking about what perks, if I was given a chance to roll my whole build, basically, right? Except for the first perk. Your character always spawns with that first perk, whichever class you go to, right? What would I pick? Which perks would I pick and why? Okay. So, we're gonna start this off because I know you're wondering what type of build would you even go for yourself, right? Me, I want to go for a build that is kind of, number one, busted, very busted, and just absolute overkill, which is why I call my build BBB, busted beyond belief. All right, so that's the name of my build, and we're gonna go into details about the perks I would pick. All right, now, two of the perks that I would want is already on my main character that I've used to play in this game, which is Squirrel. I also kind of edited my loadout a bit to show what I would basically have with my dream build, my BBB build. And I know you're wondering, what is gonna make this build so OP? The main thing that's gonna make it OP is the fact that with one of the main major perks that is going to make this build just insane, which we will get into that. Basically, no matter which weapon I use, I can do damage really quick and easy. So, without further ado, let's go on and get into it. So the first perk that we're going to be talking about, the main perk that is, it's the bread and butter, it's what makes it BBB, is a perk called Heavy Shoves, right? Now, I'm pretty sure if you've played this game as much as I have, you know how handy dandy it is to be able to shove zombies. All right, it allows you to prevent a zombie from attacking you. It allows you to, not only do that, but it gives you time to think about what you need to do next. I can shove a zombie. Do I want to fight this zombie, right? Do I want to stay here, or do I want to retreat, right? It allows you to do those things very effectively. So when you add a perk in the game which allows the shoves to deal damage, in my opinion, I feel like this is one of the most busted perks in the game. Because not only I'm able to, attack the zombie with like melee or even guns, right? Now I can attack them by shoving, right? And as far as I know of, every zombie in the game, you can basically shove them like a bunch. And whenever you do shove them, it just, it interrupts their attack. And if you do it even more, it just kind of leaves them in this stun loop. You know what I mean? So let's go on and get into heavy shoves. So the regular heavy shoves, as far as I know, it takes about 11 shoves. I know you're like, holy cow, and you're thinking this is gonna be busted. 11 shoves? That is crazy. Yeah, I know. When you have the regular heavy shoves, it takes about 11 shoves to kill a zombie. So in terms of it being BBB on that, you know, not really. But when you have expert, that's when things get really, really juicy, okay? When you have heavy shoves on expert, it only takes 5 shoves to kill a zombie. Now you're like, okay, that's actually doable, but why would I, you know, then again, why would I want to have something like this? Is it really that OP? In my opinion, it is. You know, when you shove zombies, you can shove multiple zombies at the same time. You can shove like 3-4 zombies at the same time, right? In terms of your stam, I think, you know, you can shove a zombie up to 5 times with just regular stam. But by the time you shove 5 times, you're basically out of stam. So you're like, well, in that case, it's not really worth it. But if you pull up with the adrenaline shot, that's one way you can give yourself more stam so that you can do 5 shoves and kill the zombie, and you still have even more stam to deal with, you know, any potential threats or whatever, right? And not to mention, right, you can still use melee, you can still use guns on top of this. So heavy shoves, it's just really, really good. Because let's say you've already, you know, you're using a sledgehammer, you already hit the zombie once, twice with it, you shove the zombie, that shove may actually kill the zombie, saving you a lot more time, you know, right? It's like a counter that does damage. That's really good in my opinion. So yeah, heavy shoves on expert, that is one of the main perks that I have. All right, that's the first one. The second perk we're gonna have, which I'm not too sure if it would increase the damage. I feel like it would, but I still haven't gotten the combo in the game yet to tell y'all whether or not it would work, but I'm pretty sure it would make heavy shoves even more powerful, is averaging. Okay, so here's the second perk, which is very important to the build as well. Averaging. Headshots deal less damage, but body shots deal increased damage. So when it comes to shoving, you're not aiming for the head, right? It's not a thing where I'm shoving the zombies in the head. It's always, I just shove them in the body, get them away from me, and I just continue to do what I need to do to survive. So averaging on expert, I've tried this with Foreman, which is another perk that I will have. You know, that's like the third perk that I would have on my build. Averaging on expert with Foreman allows you to kill a zombie with 2 kicks. All it takes is 2 kicks and the zombie is dead. Versus if you were to use Foreman on his own, it takes 5 kicks on expert, I believe. I think it takes like 5 to 3 kicks on expert in order for the zombie to die. So you see how much of a major, you know, you see how much of a major difference that is, having averaging with that perk versus having it without it. So if this is, you know, if it does that to Foreman, imagine what it would do if you were to have heavy shoves with it, which I still haven't gotten it yet. I've been, you know, creating characters, getting them up to level 50 in hopes of getting both of them, and then just doing it all over again. I've been doing it for quite some time, and I still haven't gotten lucky enough to see if I could test that theory out. But I'm pretty sure, I'm like about 80% certain that that would actually work. All right. But averaging, I know you're quite curious about this perk. I feel like it's an underrated perk. Like nobody doesn't really get it. It's really, really good. It works with melee and it also works with guns. All right. Which, I mean, the description of it, yeah, you would assume that it works with guns, but you wouldn't assume that it would work with melee. But it does. Now, would I recommend using averaging on a melee build? Probably not. Not for blunt weapons. For bladed weapons, I feel like this with Butcher would probably be insane. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like that would be a very W combo. That would probably make, you know, some crazy damage for sure. But again, I've never tried averaging with Butcher Expert, but I feel like if you were to have both of those perks on Expert, that would be a very devastating combo. You'd probably be killing zombies left and right with that, with ease. Okay? But yeah, averaging Expert is a very, very good perk. I would put that up there as well with heavy shoves on Expert. Though both of those perks are insane. They are insane. All right. But yeah, let's try not to get too off track with things. So we have heavy shove on Expert, right? We have averaging on Expert. So averaging is going to buff the damage that we do with our shoves even more. So it may take 3 shoves. It may even take 2 shoves to kill a zombie at that point, right? I'm not too sure how much it would buff heavy shoves, but it's gonna most definitely buff it a bit. It's gonna make it where it doesn't take 5 shoves to kill a zombie. I'm hoping that it makes it where all it takes is 3 shoves and that zombie is dunzos. Okay? That's what I'm hoping for. Now let's get into the other perk, which makes this more of like a, when I think of my build, it's more of a martial artist build, right? I'm not using guns. I'm not using melee for real, right? It's just my character just, you know, we're out here with Kung Fu. We're just, you know, shoving zombies, we're kicking them, and we're able to kill zombies that way. You know, it's, you know, me, I thought it would be, you know, really not only a really OP build, but also a very fun build to have in this game. So, speaking of Kung Fu, the next perk that, you know, the third perk we have is called Foreman. Kicks deal damage to zombies. You know, the amount of times I've just, you know, kicked a zombie, and I'm like, even before this perk even came out, I was like, yo, you know how cool it would be to have a perk like this where you could kick a zombie and it actually does damage to the zombie. You could kill zombies with kicks like you're in Doom or Duke Nukem. Well, here's the perk for you. Now, I'm not too sure how many kicks it takes to kill a zombie with Foreman on, you know, like without it being Expert. It's probably around like eight kicks or something like that. I don't know. I know if you have it on Expert though, it takes about, I think 5 to 3 kicks to kill a zombie. And if you have averaging with that, it makes it where you only need 2 kicks to kill a zombie. Only 2. And the main reason why I know that is because I actually got Foreman Expert with averaging Expert on a character. Sadly, I don't have that character anymore because my game crashed, so I lost it. I wasn't even done leveling up that character either, which is, yeah, tough, right? I really had lots of fun playing with that character, but it happens. It is what it is. But yeah, with Foreman and heavy shoves, you can not only, you know, shove zombies and deal some crazy damage, you can also kick zombies on top of that and do even more damage than a shove. But then again, when it comes to kicking zombies, that does consume a lot more stam. Okay? That does consume a lot more stam. So, speaking of stam, let's go on and get into our 4th perk, which will kind of help us limit the amount of stam that we're using, right? We have another perk which is very busted. Some would probably say absolutely overkill. We have Marathon Runner. I actually have this perk on one of like I said, this is like my main character right here. This is probably the best character I've gotten in terms of RNG. Squirrel. I've gotten through a lot of missions with her. You know, a lot of supplies, objectives, survives, you name it. So Marathon Runner, what it does is it makes it where whenever you run in a game, it consumes less stam. And if you have it on expert, it makes it where running consumes no stam whatsoever. So for a build like us, where we're shoving zombies to kill them and we're kicking zombies to kill them, well, obviously we're running the point A to point B. So we're gonna need, this is a must. We gotta have this, right? Because if we have Marathon Runner on expert, that means we can run forever and we don't have to worry about our stam bar getting low at all. It's not gonna drain, which is very incredible. And this helps out in a bunch of ways, right? That flight, that run, you know, that fight or flight option, that flight option is there 100%, 1000%. You got runner zombies on you and you have a lot of space to move. Well, guess what? You can run around the map, gather some intel on, okay, what do I want to do next, right? And you don't have to worry about your standby running out, right? Because normally when you have, you know, runner zombies, they come out of nowhere and you start to panic. You shove them a few times, you know, your stand bar is 30% gone. You start running and it's like time is ticking, right? That time is ticking. But with Marathon Runner, you can run away, think about, you know, strategize, do whatever you need to do, and be able to keep your composure way much more, which is going to allow you to stay alive out there when it depends the most. So, you know, that's our fourth perk right there. Marathon Runner on expert, right? So we got heavy shoves on expert, averaging on expert, Foreman on expert, and we have Marathon Runner on expert, which in comes to stam, that's going to allow us to conserve our stam way much better. So we have another perk, which is going to help us do the same thing. Let's go on and talk about Deprived. Okay, so let's go on and scroll down here and we're going to talk about Deprived. Deprived, your max weight limit is greatly reduced, right? But you have more health and stam. This perk for me is, I wouldn't really say is necessary, but for a build like mine, I'm trying to be BBB. I'm trying to be busted beyond, you know, belief. This is, I need this. I need this perk. This is perfect, right? Considering that I'm fighting zombies with shoves and kicks the whole time, the amount of items that we can carry is not going to really matter, because I don't really need to use guns or melee as much as everybody else, because I'm just, you know, with heavy shoves, Foreman, I'm just shoving zombies. I can shove with anything. I can shove with pills, I can shove with a gun, I can shove with melee, you know what I mean? And in terms of me, you know, kicking, as long as my character has legs, you know what I'm saying, as long as our legs are not gone, we can do that too. So with Deprived, not only we're going to be able to help ourselves in the stam department, which is going to allow us to shove more, which is going to allow us to kick zombies a lot more without having to be as tired as we normally would, and we get the little small bonus of having more HP too. Very nice. I mean, what can I say? This is most definitely a perk I'd want to have on my build. So that's our fifth perk. And again, we got another perk, which is going to allow us to keep us ready at all times when it comes to us fighting zombies in the zombie apocalypse. we have for our 6th perk, Guts. I feel like this is another perk that is kind of, you know, underrated in a sense. Guts is a very amazing perk to have, whether you have a melee build, really good for a melee build, and even for a gun build, because like I said, there are times where you have to shove, you have to run across the map, everything. This is going to allow you to recover faster from being out of stam. Okay, this is really good for a build like us where we're shoving, we're kicking zombies non-stop. We need to recover our stam as fast as we possibly can, because if you've been playing this game again as long as I have, you know, when you're out of stam, you are in a whole lot of trouble, because there's not that much you can really do. The only thing that's gonna really be able to save you in one of them predicaments is having a gun, shotgun, a rifle, pistol, you name it. But even having those, eventually you have to reload, right? So yeah, by having Guts, you don't have to worry about being out of stam as much as you normally would. You don't have to worry about, it taking maybe 5 to 10 seconds for you to start regenning your stam back. With Guts by itself, it may cut that time down by like 2.5 seconds. With Guts Expert, you're getting your stam back like within a second. You know what I mean? You're getting your stam back within a second and a half. And when you start to get your stam back, it's zooming. You know what I mean? It's like you got the Energizer Bunny, you got the Energizer Bunny as your battery. It's like when it's time for you to recharge, you're recharging, bro. You got like that 5G. Got that 5G in your battery jeans, bro. So like I said, Guts, a very good perk, and it's most definitely necessary if you want to have the BBB build, in my opinion. All right, so that's the 6th perk. Now for the 7th, the final perk that I would basically have, there's a bunch of choices you can honestly make, and I still don't really know exactly what I would want to go with. On one hand, I want to go with Athlete. I want to go with Athlete because, having Athlete on Expert, that would increase our stamina by a lot. Okay. That would increase our stam even more. And I'm pretty sure with all them perks combined, I would be able to shove myself out of any situation that I needed to just, shove, maybe even kick, out of any situation that I really need to get out of. Even though when it comes to kicks, those are normally used in terms of one-on-one situations. You only got like one zombie there, you're trying to get, through the door, a zombie's right there, you just kick, boom, now you can get through. That's normally when you use kicks. It's not something that you would use in a situation where you have 3 to 5 zombies, right? Those type of situations, you leave that to shoving. You shove, you get all the zombies out of there, you're good to go, right? In terms of like 1 to 2 zombies, you can kick through them with ease, right? But yeah, having Athlete on Expert with Deprived, both of those combined, your stam is gonna be crazy. Like I could already imagine your stam, bro. I haven't even gotten anything like that yet. You feel me? So I don't even know how crazy your stam would be, but it's gonna be pretty dang high. I'm just gonna tell you that. So the final perk, I would either go with this And if I want to play it more safe on my side, right, I could go with another perk that is pretty underrated in my opinion, that a lot of people don't really go with, even though it's really busted. It's really busted. I could go with quiet steps. Reduce noise from movement. You know, I'm pretty sure this, even without it being on expert, is insanely good. We're talking like it reduces the noise that you make by like about a good, I don't know, like 40, probably like, you know, 40 to 60% or something like that. And on expert, it's probably like 60 to something percent. Okay, not to mention you could combine quiet steps with the ranger boots, right? You could combine that with the ranger boots, and that's even more like reduced noise in terms of you moving. I'm gonna tell you right now, quiet steps on expert is insane. You know, you are hardly noticed by any zombies, especially when you're walking. Like you can notice, you know, when you're in, you know, Pottsville, right, and you're having to search the neighborhoods, and you're in all the apartments and stuff, right, you're in all the cribs. I'm telling you, it's like a life changer. You go in a crib, you kill like maybe 2-3 zombies, all the zombies that are in there, it's like, bro, there's no other zombies, right? And you're just chilling. You're just walking around, you're looting everything. You don't have to worry about a zombie coming up from behind or anything. Then when it comes to, you know, going through crowds, you can literally go through crowds with ease. And we're just talking walking. I'm not even crouching. You know, you can crouch and be even more. You would be basically like undetectable, you know? That's insane. So if I really, you know, if I felt like I needed to add a little bit of a safety measure to my build, even though I don't really feel like I would need this, but if I, you know, if I wanted to go with it, if you want to go with a safety measure to make sure that you're really, really good, quiet steps would be that perk. All right. So let's go on and recap. Right? We got heavy shoves. That's the main thing that makes this build fun. It's the main thing that makes this build, you know, what I would call a BBB build. Being able to do damage with shoves. Right? We got averaging. Averaging is, you know what I mean? It's kind of like when it comes to 2K, it's like the orange juice, right? Averaging is buffing heavy shove, right? It's gonna make it way much stronger, way much more effective, and that's what's gonna make it busted. Then we have Foreman as well, right? We have Foreman, and it's allowing us to kill zombies by just kicking them, and that also gets help from averaging to make it insanely powerful. Then we have a bunch of perks that helps with the cons of this type of build. Well, it's going to consume a lot of stam, right? That's the con of this build. You're always using your stam, which is very important to you, which is going to determine whether you can survive or just, you know, not. So you have Marathon Runner, which is a huge help, because with Marathon Runner, we don't have to worry about consuming our stam at all when it comes to running. Something that we are doing throughout the whole game. Throughout the whole game, you're running point A to point B, you're running the side objectives, you're running to main objectives, you're running to help your teammates, you're running for team supplies, you know what I mean? You're ripping and running for all kinds of loot out there. All right. So with Marathon Runner being on expert and not having to consume any stam whatsoever when running is a huge help, and it will most definitely help us in terms of conserving our stam. Then we have Deprived. Deprived, yes, it makes our inventories, you know, size, what, 3 kg smaller? But why does that matter? We're using shoves, we're kicking zombies. Last time I checked, you can shove with anything, right? You can kick with any character as long as they got legs. So, and you know, that normally being a con for maybe a gun build, or maybe for, you know, let's say you want to make a build where you can carry a bunch of medical supplies or ammo. Yeah, that would be a con for that, because you're reducing the amount of kgs you can carry on your character, which is going to also decrease the amount of supplies you can carry in that department. But that's not, you know what I'm saying, that's not what we're going for. We're going for just being a, just a complete badass, you know. We're out here just, it's like, you know, a martial artist, a samurai, if you will. That's what we're going for. So Deprive, we give 3 kgs, right, that we can carry, but we have more health and more stam. That's a W. So in terms of the stem department, that is going to allow us that is most definitely going to allow us to do a lot more things more efficiently. Then we have guts. Guts is going to allow us to recover whenever we are burnt out, whenever we have no stam whatsoever. Guts is going to allow us to get our stam back super duper fast, so that we can always be in battle, even if our life depends on it, you know, because we have guts. You know, guts is what you need sometimes in order to live, especially in No More Room in Hell. So yeah. Then with the final perk, we have Athlete, which will, again, the pure purpose of increasing our stam, so that we'll be good to go. Now, if you want to play it a little bit safe, you can get Quiet Steps. Not only this will help out you, but this will also help you out towards your teammates. Let's say you have a teammate down, they have a whole crowd of zombies. Well, with Quiet Steps, you may be able to revive them. You may be able to revive them, I'm not gonna lie. You may be able to revive them without the zombies even noticing, depending on how, you know, the zombies are, you know, depending on how they're kind of rooted out on the map. But yeah, I honestly believe, I feel like Quad Steps, it could honestly help you with that. Now when it comes to how y'all would want to like rework my build for the better, for the worse, you know, however you want to make it, you know, you don't even have to use Quad Steps. You could use Staying Alive, right? Staying Alive Expert. It doesn't even matter if they're in a big old crowd. You can just run, revive your teammate. It only takes like maybe a second and a half. Boom, they're up, right? And within that time frame, you may get hit once, twice, but it's not going to kill you. I'll tell you that much. So yeah, you could use that too. But for me, for my last perk, I'm going with Athlete. Okay. And our starting perk, Mule, because that kind of counters out the negative of Deprive, right? So instead of it taking like, I mean, it'll still take 3 kgs, but with Mule, you get an extra kg, right? So in reality, it's only going to take like 2. Okay. And that's pretty much You know, if I could roll for all of my perks, that's what I would roll, and that's what I would go for. All right. In terms of my loadout, what would you go for your loadout, man? You know, you done told us all these perks and everything, right? For your BBB build, what would your loadout look out? You know, what would your loadout look like? This is how it would look like. Adrenaline shot is a must. Okay, we gotta have the adrenaline shot on there, man. All right, that is most definitely a must on there. Okay, because the adrenaline shot, I would say this doubles your stamina. Like, this is, I don't know, it feels like it doubles your stamina. If not, it increases your stamina by at least 80%, like 70-80%. It's like a major increase. Okay, so having this adrenaline shot plus all the perks that I just talked about is going to be insane. Our stamina is gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be unreal. Okay, next up we have, which this is up to you. All right, me personally, I would go with the mass casualty kit. I feel like this is a very, very good item to have. If you want to, you could go with the experimental, because that makes it where you're just immune, right? You never have to worry about being infected. I probably would go for this, but you know, right now as the game, you know, stands, infection, you know, being infected is not, it's not really that bad. You just need pills, you know what I mean? Maybe in the future, if they were to make it where even with pills eventually you end up dying or something, like you gotta get the, you know, experimental or something, then I would probably swap it out. But if they're gonna just keep it the way it is, where, you know, you have an infection, if you let it carry on for too long, your character just gets reanimated, which is, if you're wondering, reanimated, what is that? That's basically what it's called whenever you turn in this game. It's called reanimated. So, or reanimation. All right, so yeah, the mass casualty kit, it doesn't really matter. I feel like for any build that you're going with, I feel like everybody should have this item in their loadout. Okay, we're talking about a box that has a med kit, 4 bandages, and 2 pills. That is literally enough to probably last you the game, right? And that's just me. You know, I don't really consider myself to be like a crazy veteran pro of the game or anything like that, but this normally allows me to just get through the whole game. Okay, and that's like if you don't find any more medical supplies. But this is just, you're just starting off with this, right? Every match you hop into, you start off with that: a med kit, 4 bandages, 2 pills. So if you do get infected, you don't have to worry about it, because, you know, pills, they have 3 uses. You have 2 of them, so you have 6 times that you can use pills to prevent your infection. And like I said, with 2 pills, that normally lasts the whole game. You know what I mean? You get 3 pills, you're most definitely good for that whole game. So yeah, not only that, you got plenty of bandages to heal. You have a med kit just in case it really gets crazy. That's really, really good. For our choice of weapon, I decided to go with an item that has probably like the fastest shove speed. Now, back in the day, before it got nerfed, the deployable work light had like a very insane shove speed. And not only that, it didn't consume stam whenever you were to shove with this. So you know, that's back in the day. Now if you were to use the deployable work light and you were to try to use heavy shoves with it, you're not gonna really be able to. I mean, you can do it, but it consumes a lot of stam, so I probably wouldn't recommend it. But you know, it is one, you know, it's one of the honorable mentions I would, you know, like to put in there, because that is what honestly inspired me to have a build like this. Ever since I you know, I saw you could do such a thing with a work light and, you know, heavy shove, I was like, yo, this is insane. So that's honestly what inspired me to even make a build that's reliant on, you know, heavy shove. And not only that, I mean, hey, they had a perk where you can kick, you know, deal damage to zombies by kicking. Yeah, even better. But yeah, for me, it doesn't really matter. You can pick any gun you want, but for me, I decided to go with the M1911 because, you know, or just any pistol, because it has a very fast shove speed, right? Versus if I were to shove with a shotgun, right? Like I just shove with the X12, you know, super, or the M14. So anything that just basically shoves fast, that's what I want to start off with, right? So, you know, it could be the M1911, or I could just literally use the pills that I get in my med box, because those have a pretty fast, you know, shoving speed too. But yeah, with that pretty much sums up the video. I know it's been quite some time since I've made a YouTube video. You know, I've been kind of, you know, brainstorming here and there, and I thought that, you know, why not just start making some, you know, no more Room in Hell 2 content. I don't really see that much content being pushed out about this game for real. You know, I've seen like a lot of folks, hey, like, you know, no more Room in Hell, like first impressions, you know, gameplay here and there, right? But not, I haven't really seen too much. So I was like, you know, why not just start making some No More Room in Hell 2 content? So that's what I'm basically gonna start doing. So hopefully y'all enjoyed me talking about the perks I would have if I had the chance to roll for all of my perks. As always, if you enjoyed, you know, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, so you know whenever I pull up with another W, just like this. Also, you know, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think, man. You know, feedback is always appreciated. And as always, Brodies, y'all have a good day / night, whatever the case might be. And I shall see y'all later. Peace.